Yeah, the direct to web, so to speak. So yeah.
Great.
Yeah, lots of that stuff. Yeah. So like at least 2 pieces a month.
Okay.
For the website for until 4th edition game. So.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very, very cool. So Skip, how inundating is it? Inundated is it to get that organized GaryCon every year? I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, we spread that pretty thin. So.
Okay. Yeah, Luke was singing your praises last week.
Yeah, he was.
Yep.
Luke came on for the Len tribute on Sunday night. So.
So I mean, Luke is the money guy and handles the industry contacts, and Carolyn Burks does the guests, and Dave Koenig sort of has really become the tech guy and the exhibitor liaison. So, and I do GMs. So nobody has to do it all.
That's good. Excellent. I know it's Luke told us a little tidbit, so I'm not sure if we're supposed to say it to everyone, but he has a feeling it's going to be like last year.
Virtual or like this year.
Yeah, he stated that on Sunday night.
Well, yeah, the COVID situation in Wisconsin is very bad. So.
Yeah.
Well, nothing. It's not officially. LiveCon isn't officially dead yet.
So, okay.
No.
It's on life support. So.
I managed to cancel it last year, pretty close to the event without getting charged.
Yeah, I guess that they have to let you cancel. I guess when it's that's like a force majeure or something. I don't know.
Well, we have the dirty little secret there is we have extra leverage this year.
Oh, that's good.
Because this is the last year of our contract. So we had a multi-year contract. This is the last year. So Luke was able to say, would you like us to renew our contract? So we have a little extra leverage.
That's good to hear. I was looking forward to attending in person last year, and then did 6 virtual events. That's right, Katana. You couldn't skip tonight's show. That's funny. So there's a chat on Twitch, Skip. It's we can follow it on our end, so you don't have to have both up. But yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can log in and
I don't actually do Twitch. So.
No problem.
Yeah.
Not a problem at all. Don't do Twitch, huh?
Anyway, Facebook wastes enough of my time. I don't.
Yeah.
I can see that with a lot of people. It just eats up time. Look at that! I got a blank screen now. What's going on with that?
Yeah, did you press the wrong button?
I got an ad that's blank now. That is weird. No Gamescape 3D ad tonight. That is insane. Don't know what happened there. All right.
Technology is wonderful. When
I've never had that happen before. Very strange. All right. So no Gamescape 3D ad. So weird. I'll have to figure what's wrong with that tomorrow night. I never had that happen before, Anna.
No, I think it worked every time.
Yeah, so.
I don't hear the music, but I see the
Yeah, because
we can see the ads.
Yeah.
So,
Special guest Skip Williams tonight, everyone. Thank you for coming on as people are hopping on now. We started a little early. We normally should go at 8 o'clock on Wednesday. We started just at 7:30. I didn't want to take up their whole night on a weeknight. Didn't know, wanted to start us off a little bit earlier. It should be a very interesting conversation. We have I got a lot of questions from the audience already, and from some people on Discord and in some other formats from emails. People are really interested about your D&D career, so I'm excited because I got a stack here of everything I could find that I owned that you have written. So I'm missing a couple things though. I couldn't find a couple of them.
Well, I only have one copy of out of 7 parts, and I don't know where it is. So.
Oh, well, I got that box set. I got that box set.
I have one somewhere. I just don't know where the heck it is.
It's
I have mine either. So
it's crazy the cost of box sets now. Just the original box sets of anything. Because they're just such a rare thing anymore, and they're such a collector's item. So,
but this is one of my favorite books.
Dragonomicon, yeah.
So,
Alright. Why don't we come on here? Hey, what's up, Mike? I'm probably gonna hit the wrong button again, like I always do. I'm just kidding. Good evening, everyone. How are you tonight, everyone? I know normally we'd be watching Blue Box, but John didn't go on tonight, running from 7 to 8. But thank you for hopping on here early tonight, a half hour early. I'm Jay Killer Gazumba, and I got with us as normal Greyhawk Mike Bridges.
Howdy.
And the wonderful Anna Meyer.
hey.
And our very special guest tonight, Skip Williams. It's Ralph Skip Williams?
Yes,
Sir?
that's not widely known, but that's the family name, yeah. So,
Does that? I have to ask, does anyone still call you that, Ralph?
Tom Wam and Kim Mohan
Okay.
call me Ralph P because that's my middle initial.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And that's about it, yeah. So
Well, welcome tonight. Thank you.
various people who write me checks. So,
That sounds good. Yep.
because it's a legal name, so the bank gets a little hinky.
Well, we appreciate you coming on tonight, and you have a fantastic. And I'm scrolling through a lot of them on the broadcast screen, and I just didn't know. Maybe I'm just stupid, but I couldn't figure out how to chronologically order them either. So Luke said to me on Sunday night, "You graduated high school with Ernie and Rob Kuntz. Is that or?" Who were the 3 that graduated together?
That would have been Ernie and, gosh, Ken Reek and Dave LaForce.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And so
Ken
that's
Reek is not particularly well known in gaming. He worked in the shipping department at TSR for a while. But Dave LaForce is, of course, known as
I've met him.
Diesel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you did, Mike? Would you meet him at a convention?
I've met him at Gen Con and I believe Gary Con.
Okay. Very cool. So Skip, when was the first time that you got introduced to D&D? Was it through Ernie? Was it Ernie had said, "Come on over," or
Actually, through a high school classmate named Marcus Karowski.
Okay. So it wasn't through Ernie. It was through
from grade school. It was not through Ernie. Ernie came along later.
Okay.
So.
Cool.
And just you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is made in where I live." Was that what happened, or you're just like, "Hey, man, this is cool," and things just fell into place? As far as
I've told this story before, but
Okay.
since you're asking, we'll tell it again.
Okay.
So one summer, I picked up a copy of the Lake Geneva Regional News,
Okay.
which is the town's weekly newspaper. I think it's still only weekly. It's still hanging in there.
Okay. Okay.
And there was a picture of a bunch of people around a table, and they had miniature tanks. And I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, because I'd always been interested in that sort of stuff. And I read the article, and it was about Gen Con 5, or that had happened the weekend previously. I think paper came out on a Wednesday. So this would have been the Wednesday after, or whatever Gen Con was that year. And I went, wow, that's kind of cool. And too bad I missed it. So, but then I went to high school that year. My freshman year in high school was 1974. That's a notable year, right? For D&D geeks.
Yeah.
And there was my classmate Marcus Kurowski, who I had been went to grade school with since, I don't know, grade 4 or so. Thanks to the ins and outs of the local school district. Marcus actually was from the nearby town, unincorporated town of Springfield, which is also home to Jeff Leeson. And he had said, I've got this thing. You want to try it out? And I went, oh, that thing. I saw that in the paper.
Nice.
Actually, before that, the fall before that, or the spring before that, I had a brush with it through another hipster named Don Arndt, who gave his name to the Invulnerable Code of Arn.
Oh, okay.
He's actually been involved with the high school gaming group, and he had a little World War II type campaign map with him at school one day, and I was looking at that. So it had sort of these near-term brushes. Blissfully unaware. So yeah, and then also Mike Menard, who was an early playtester for D&D. We were in the same Boy Scout troop, so we had been ships passing in night for quite some time, actually, and I was not aware of any of this going on until Marcus came up with the brown box.
Wow. And is that 74 or 75?
74. This is the fall of 74.
Okay.
So the couple of months after the publication. So
wow.
And then Ernie showed up and said, "Do you play games other than D&D?" And I went, "Well, what do you got in mind?" And he had a copy of Warriors of Mars.
Okay.
Which is the Barsoom miniatures game, but it also had a little role playing attached. So Ernie and I did Warriors of Mars a lot. Mostly when we were supposed to be doing our homework.
Of course. Those were the days. Just playing and doing something like, all throughout the summer and playing almost every day or every night. And just, man, those were the wonderful times, let me tell you. That is, so I have a question here, and it's from Puppet Dad Jason Jacobson, and he wanted to ask you, because you technically did a lot of play testing once you met with Ernie and then played with Luke and Jim Ward in a couple times. With Gary himself and Jim, in Dark Druids. Is that correct? Can you tell us about your adventure in Dark Druids with Jim Ward and Rob Kuntz? I'm sorry, Rob Kuntz.
Oh yeah, well that wasn't a play test as far as I know. That was. Maybe it was, but we weren't aware of it. Yeah, Dark.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Just ran something.
Yeah, that was Rob Kuntz and Jim Ward and I. Jim and I were just our two characters.
Okay.
And had a disastrous little adventure involving we were in some obscure portion of the Greyhawk dungeon, and we wound up. I don't really remember too many of the details, except that I think there were hordes and hordes of gnolls, I think.
Okay.
and we wound up casting a cloud kill spell and walking around inside the cloud kill to keep these hordes of monsters off of us. And eventually we made a break for it, and there was a Vrak, a type 1 demon guarding the exit, and that did not go well for us.
What were you playing? Were you playing a spellcaster?
I was playing my fighter,
okay,
Boric, who was later involved with the playtest for the G series and the D series. Well, the G series actually, the D series did not use our own characters for that. So.
Okay, is that one of the? I'm sorry, I apologize for not knowing. Is that one of the characters that's in the back?
No.
Okay. Like
is never been immortalized anywhere. So.
Oh, okay. It's not like Gleep Word or Funkin' Hottie Peak or Beak Dwenders or Croodle.
Those were all characters that Gary made up for the tournaments. When he wrote stuff for, they were often used as tournaments first.
Okay.
So Gleek Benders and Funkin' Hottie Peak and all that other good stuff.
Yeah.
Those came a little later, but
okay.
E-series, we were using our regular characters from Greyhawk.
Wow. So that Auric, what did he retire as? Did he retire at like a certain level, or you play him to this day?
He got to 7 or 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Modest.
He had a bizarre collection of magic. So.
Back in the day, right? The day where almost anything went back then. You know, you could have Helms of Brilliance and Robes of Eyes and all sorts of crazy stuff back from that.
I mean, he had a sword. He had a +1/+2 sword with a bunch of special abilities, and he had a gem of brightness. And he had biggest thing he had was a genie ring.
Oh, okay.
Came out of a horde somewhere. I think it might have been randomly rolled. I don't know.
Very cool.
Right. So, I mean, the genie ring. I mean, if you go to 3rd edition, a genie ring, you'd have to be about 18th level or something to afford a genie ring. Ridiculously expensive. But.
So, when did you officially publish or write your first adventure? Or I know you did Sage of Ice, but that was, I think, in 2000. What is that? In 1987, right? I think you started Sage of Ice. What was your very first?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, very first thing you had published, because I couldn't find it. I looked.
That would be Vengeance of Elfax for
okay.
The Masters rules, D&D Masters rules.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What year would that have been?
Because they needed that was because they was available, and they needed somebody to write that entry. So
it sounds like you were that guy at TSR. When they needed someone to do something, you stepped up.
Yeah.
Well, that's how I got involved with the RPGA.
Yeah. Excellent. Because
they were just farming. They were farming those out, and they needed something, and they had somebody who could write D&D. So
yeah,
that is cool. Anna, Mike, I got a whole bunch of questions from that.
Yeah, but you asking so many.
Are you sure you want me to keep on rolling here? I want to get you too involved in stuff.
This is so old. So it's kind of before I'm even aware of it. So
don't say this is so old, because then you're gonna make Skip and I feel like we're ancient here.
Oh no, I'm older than you are, so don't worry about it. Older than I actually gamed, so to speak. It's before I started gaming. So
I'm still shocked how far back we're discussing. It's like I don't think I started till 83.
Yeah, meaning mid 75. That's meaning that's when I was like 3rd grade or something. Yeah, 4th grade or something. Yeah.
So on a note that I just want to ask you, and then I have another question in the future about this. Did you know Len well? I know Len is
I got to know Len pretty well. I mean, Len was involved in the International Federation of Wargaming.
Right.
Yeah.
And did one or two Gen Cons, sort of try to take some of the load off Gary for a while.
Okay.
So Gary did Gen Con, and then the IFW took it over for 1 or 2 years, and Len was involved in that.
Okay.
When I was doing Gen Con, he was an advisor, so we worked together quite a bit.
Okay.
And he was a regular at the Revels, which are little quarterly conventions we did at Lake Geneva. I still have a hard time believing that there was a time when I was personally organizing 4 game conventions every year.
That is
a
lot of work.
One every 3 months, essentially.
Especially not with the electronics available that there is now.
You had to write things on
all
typewriters and
paper.
mail it, and
It is.
I would have killed for the internet back then. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I know we just had Virtual Greyhawk Con at the beginning of last month, and it went very, very well. And I know doing that for the first time how difficult it was, and you've been doing this a lot longer, so you must have some tricks down. But Dave Guerreri, who is one of the individuals who runs Greyhawk Reborn, asked, what was your favorite, and this just came up in chat, what was your favorite aspect of Gen Cons?
When they were over every year.
I think almost everyone at Gen Con still agrees with you on that one. So, yeah.
They just got
back then. Wargaming was still the major event at Gen Con back then, or was D&D taking over almost from the
D&D took over almost immediately.
Yeah.
Cool.
So by the time I got there, I was working with Joe Orlowski for 2 years, I think. By the time I got there, it was probably 70% D&D.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Much to the chagrin of the old guard.
Oh yeah, for them, the D&D was that new weird thing that people started to play.
I brought all these kids in. All these kids are running all over all the place, and that's like, okay, are you a hobbyist or not? I've always despised gatekeepers.
Yeah. Now we are the old guard who played D&D for too long.
It is. It's just like now the size is so, well, without the COVID, it was so crazy. And when I went to 2019, and how many people were there? 40 to 50,000, 60?
That was Turnstile. It was 100,000.
Yeah.
102, 104, something like that, Turnstile. But individual, I think it was like 45 or something like that.
Yeah,
way past.
Crazy.
Turnstiles is the unit of measure. I think that's what they do for big events. So it was So then it was over 100,000.
Yeah, the turnstile is what? That's one person coming for at least part of one day.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. It's the measure they use to
entering the show.
Yeah. They pay for a badge and then they go in and enter and then they stay for so and so long before they leave again or something. Yeah.
Right.
So we got questions rolling in, and I have a bunch still. And so let's do this. All right. Here's your rod of 7 parts. All right. Got that. Pretty good condition still. And this is my pile that I got some questions.
My box, but I have the book.
There's my pile. Now I got the player's handbook from 3.0. I'm an old school 1E2E guy. Still to this day, but I do use this for a couple things for spells, and we've incorporated feats into a proficiency system, and so I got a fair amount of. But I know this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Question in chat. What's your cat's name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, this is Eily, the black cat, which is actually short for Illustrate, which is...
Yes. Forgotten Realms.
So her story is that her mom showed up pregnant on our doorstep at the time that I was working on a Norak book for FR, as it happens. and the deity Mistra figures in heavily. And so my wife Penny her mom was a tortoiseshell. Said, "Oh wow, this cat reminds me of that motley clad goddess that I've seen in the book." So she was named Mistra when we let her adopt us. And then she had a litter of kittens. So when Mistra had kittens, of course, they all got FR deity names.
So I got to ask this. FR or Greyhawk? Or both?
Either, because I really don't care for settings.
Okay.
Hey, yeah.
Settings are great. I mean, settings are wonderful for building community, and they're great for looting, right? There's all kinds of wonderfully lootable stuff in setting books. Maps and characters and whatever, but otherwise I'm not a big settings guy.
Okay. Well, you did some Planescape work too.
I did.
I have In the Abyss up right now. So that is in that highlight of the second edition. Is there a publication that we know that's first edition of yours that's published, in book format, or is it mostly you're working and maybe doing some dragon or dungeon articles at this point for first edition? Because I think everything I found, I think second.
D&D, not AD&D. I don't think I actually have any publication credits for 1E.
Okay.
Except for credits in the books.
That's what I thought, and I was looking, and that's a great thing as it is. But everything I have here, I believe, starts in the 2E era.
Some of the stuff that it was writing tournaments at the time, and some of that stuff got into print later. So I guess there was a copy of Moonlight Madness there, right?
Yes, absolutely. Moonlight Madness is a definite one.
Moonlight Madness was written as a 1E tournament.
Okay.
It was published as a second edition.
Let me skip through to that here. I tried to find as many as I could here. There's actually the Dwarvish Swords. We'll talk about that. This high-level campaign book is good for, I'll tell you a spell I love in that. Sea Devils. Moonlight Madness, there it is. So that was written in 1E, but then it got published in the 2E era, is what you're saying on that. Okay.
Yeah, Wati went back, and Wizards of the Coast went back and published, I don't know, 6 or 7 of the old RPGA tournament modules.
Does that include this?
No, actually, the Dwarvish Lords was just part of the schedule.
Okay.
That was done as a product from the beginning. So
it is long.
Actually, the Dwarvish Lords is an adventure like Rod of the Seven Parts, but the physical format is one that the company could actually make money on.
So you don't have to put all different pieces in to make this, and you're saying this is very expensive.
I don't think the company that did not make a dime on Rod of Seven Parts. I don't think.
Wow.
I had the Rod of Seven Parts, and I think it ended up in 7 parts because I don't have the whole set anymore.
Yeah, I don't have the box. I think that I lost it, but
3 books.
That's the so-called 2-inch box. Yeah, 3 books, color covers.
A bunch of maps.
Booklet, and then there's all those cards, and it's just what a great, what great toy value, right? It's
wonderful.
All that color printing in that big book, and I don't remember what the retail was.
I think it was $49.95. Let me take a look on the back here.
I don't think it was that much.
Really? $39.30 US. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what it is now? No, literally, you can't get this in this condition.
Hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, probably $175 to $200 for a beat up one. It's crazy.
Yeah, mint ones are available, but they're hideously expensive.
Yes, mint and shrink wrap, you're probably looking at $300 to $500 for that.
So that, I mean. And with the print run it had, TSR did not make anything on that product at all.
Well, that's an interesting concern that no one has ever mentioned in any of, like, we've had Eric Mona on, we've had Luke, we've had James Jacobs, Jason Bullman on. None of them have ever said that, which I appreciate your candor on that.
Yeah, but there was some interesting blog posts. I think Lisa Stevens did, and they did some kind of throwback and business analysis and came up with the conclusion that was basically a lot of it was not profitable. So I've read various articles about it, but it's been sparse, so to speak. So it's good that you bring it up.
It's a good point there, Skip. This is $26.95 on the back, and this is one book with a map insert.
And the maps are wraparound, and
it's got a map book.
One of the reasons I know this is because I was actually involved in all of the planning.
Okay.
So we actually, as part of the design product for X, we looked at, what the unit cost was going to be like, and actually planned to make a product that we could sell at a profit.
It's got some detail and depth.
And the word count is actually very similar to Rod. There's almost as much gaming material. There isn't the cool cards, right?
Right.
The little maps on the cards. There isn't a.
Well, did that start with the Free City Grail box set, and everyone said, "This is so cool. We got to keep on doing this and replicate this."
I don't know, but I think the business justification was multifold. One of them was just to command shelf space.
Okay, for box sets.
The business idea was we're going to have all these high value products, and we're going to fill up the shelves and keep other publishers off the shelves, and we're going to drive Player's Handbook sales with these support products. And Player's Handbook was always popular, always profitable, right? So as long as we were driving Player's Handbook sales, then we didn't really need to make money on the other stuff.
Okay.
That is my imperfect understanding.
Yeah, it's one we've never heard before, and we appreciate that. Really do. Some other questions here, some general questions. Canadian Ancient Gamer, do you still play? If so, what edition?
Only when I can, and it's 3.5 almost all the time.
Okay. Do you do any Pathfinder?
A little bit.
Okay. All right.
Depends on who's running.
Okay.
Mostly if I'm not playing 3.5, it's usually something like Shadow of the Demon Lord or Big Eyes Smallmouth or.
Okay. So, do you have your own world? Do you have homebrewed because you're not a setting person, or are you more generic when you run stuff or play stuff?
Yeah, my home campaign, which kind of died when I moved to Seattle, and that never really came back. That's a classic dungeon, a town and a dungeon.
Okay.
And there's a continent.
Okay. Excellent. Easy enough.
Really, sorry.
Go ahead, Anna. No, go.
I was going to say the really old school game world, so to speak, a game setting.
It's almost it's similar to Len's, except Len got an island, right?
Yeah.
And, we heard that story, how he got his island, and that's pretty cool. Do you have a system? And this is from Dave Greer again. Do you have a system that you just love to play outside of D&D to this day? Another system, sci-fi, or you play Metamorphosis Alpha with Jim Ward at Once in a Blue Moon, or?
Yeah, I haven't played with Jim for a while, but yeah, Gamworld is fun. I've done a little Castles and Crusades.
Chuck would love to hear that. Chuck Cumbo. Yeah, that's great to hear.
Astonishing Swords and Swordsmen.
Okay. Yep.
Those are lovely, old, cool stuff.
Yeah, Troll Lord is sponsors us here, and they do some fantastic stuff. And I was hoping that you had 1 or 2 publications for them, but I didn't see any. And Chuck didn't think you did either, because I know. And I'm jumping ahead, but did you the pre-Monte Cook Games company? You did a little work for them in this Cry Havoc that's up right now.
Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this. I have a copy of it. And it's an event book, and you could usually get this pretty reasonably still. And it is just it's got a lot of mass combat system in it for 3.5, I would say, right? Over 3.0.
That's what it actually is a mass combat system for 3.5.
Yeah.
Along with a couple of prestige classes and a general discussion of how to handle war in a role-playing game.
And it has also effects of like spells it's basically the battle system of 3.5.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
I'm suddenly stunned that I've never heard of this.
Yes, here it is.
Because I would have used the hell out of that.
Yep.
Yeah, now when I see it, it rings the bell. I think I've seen a picture of it, but I haven't used it. Yep.
There's actually two systems in there. There's a board game type system where everything is pretty much paper and pencil, and then there's actually a tactical mini system.
There are a lot of feat. If you're a third edition, there are a ton of feats in here, like bolster attack, bolster morale, deliver coup de grace. There's a lot of them. There's a section on injury and death, schools of magic. It is set. It's pretty neat. So if you're into that scale, and I know you can pick it up. I imagine you can get this on DM's Guild as well, very reasonably. I think it was $9.99. I saw today. You should be able to get a hold of this. Definitely worthwhile taking a look at. And Malhavik Press, was that a pre-Monte Cook Games company?
Yeah, it was. He and his wife, Monty and his wife Sue, were running that.
Okay.
Out of the house in Renton.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what the date is on this. 2003. So, oh my gosh, 17 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. So you were doing this while you were still at WotC?
No, I did that right after I left WotC.
Okay, you left WotC in 2002, 2003? Okay.
2002, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, Cry Havoc is on drive-through for $10.
Okay.
PDF for
there you go. So
I'll post the link in if people are interested in chat here. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for that resub there, Caesar. Really appreciate it. All right. Well, that is, and there's another one up that was non-TSR WotC, and that it's like an alternate player's handbook. Let me get to it here.
That's from Green Ronin. Yeah.
Yeah, Advanced Player's Manual. Yep. Okay. D20.
Yep. Yeah, I have those.
Okay, Green. So is it a 3.0 or 3.5? If you remember, I don't have a copy of that.
I think it's a D20.
Yeah, I think it's a 3. I don't think it was published until after 3.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I think too. Yeah.
Okay. Alternate rules, mostly spins on rules for the most part.
Yeah, there's new character classes, and there's 6 of them, something like that.
Excellent.
And there's
thank you, Gaetano.
There's a new look at skills, so there's all the skills are re-examined. And
$16.95 on DriveThruRPG. Gaetano found that that link. Thank you so very much. So
what else is there? There's a little there's an alignment check system. That's everything cool. Is you instead of having an alignment, you have an alignment score, and you can actually do alignment checks.
Okay.
Let's keep them paladins
and that's folded back into the skill system as well. So
So you like tweaking a lot, correct? Is that?
Oh yeah, and that was also what Green Ronin was asking for as well. So.
Okay. And so when was, I'm going to skip to the end and we'll go backward. What was your last? You're still publishing to this day. You're still writing to this day.
Yeah, I just did something through Tacticus Games, the Red Candle, just for 5e.
Okay, that's a Forgotten Realms adventure.
That's where he put it. Yeah,
I saw
it wasn't written as a Forgotten Realms.
Okay, because I saw it. I think that's on DM's Guild as well. I think it just got posted, and we weren't sure if that was new or not. So okay, it's brand new.
It's yeah, like less than 2 months old.
Okay, all right, cool. Josh Pop and I were looking through it, and he says, "Oh, what's this?" And yeah, it had the and symbol on it, so we figured it was newer. And all right, cool. So you're still, that's great to hear that you're doing things. So when 1987 comes around and you're working at, it's TSR at, still, but Gary's out. Is that correct? He left in 85 in that era. How did you get, like, I hear the word is Sage of Vice, there was no one else to do, and you're like, I'll do it.
Let's see.
Is that how it came about in the Dragon? And you held that for years. And here's a Sage of Vice column I have up now.
Yeah, the genesis of that was there were all these unanswered letters with rules questions. And Harold Johnson hired me to answer these letters pretty much on a per letter basis.
Wow.
So I sat down with a stack of letters and we cut a deal. And the first thing I told Harold was, look, what you need to do is you need to keep track. So do this, you need to keep pace. So instead of sitting down and trying to work through this bushel basket, it wasn't a bushel basket, it was a box. It was a book-sized box. So what would that be? A 1 1/4 cubic foot box, a book box. You know what I'm talking about?
Right, and it was deep too, probably. So hundreds and hundreds.
Whatever it was. Yeah. So it was like a 1 1/4 cubic foot box of unanswered mail. And he said, we're never gonna catch up if I just try to answer all these letters. That's going to be years. Some of these letters are years old. So here's what we should do. Well, I'll answer all the new letters that come in, all of them. Every week we'll answer all the letters, and then every week we'll do like 8 or 10 letters from the back pile as well.
So excuse me, but so the letters were answered personally and sent back a personal
answer
correct. To each. Wow, I thought these were just answered in the Dragon. If you were lucky, you get an answer in the magazine.
That's what eventually happened. That's what eventually happened. But yeah, so I had this. I had an Apple IIe and a dot matrix printer, and not a dot matrix. It was a daisy wheel printer. And they gave me TSR letterhead, and I would answer letters all week, and then I would queue it all up and print it off, and I would go like shop for groceries because dot matrix printers were really slow.
Oh my gosh, yeah, painful.
But yeah, it was in the summertime. It was really. I was talking to Peter Atkinson about this not terribly long ago. In the summertime, I could hear the printer rattling from about a block away.
Especially with that Apple IIe and
they were noisy. Yeah.
Writing in Pascal and Fortran and stuff. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, whatever it was Apple machine, whatever that was.
Yeah.
ProDOS.
It was all green. You had a green monitor, those were the days. Playing Wizardry on that Apple IIe.
But anyway, I had the presence of mind to keep all the letters on disk.
Oh, nice.
And Roger Moore shows up one day and says, so you've been answering letters. So, do you have anything you could I could put in the magazine, and I went, here you go. Here's the catalog.
So did you put put down the reference so you knew what you answered, so you can kind of build a library of
I just kept
rules
I
interpretations?
kept a little informal database.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was smart, I would have done it in VisiCalc or something like that. But it was just
yeah. So could you make up these adjudication or kind of say that, okay, the rules should be interpreted this way, or was that something that you actually had to go back to TSR and tell them or ask them, what is the official answer to this? Because that was the Sage Advice was the first kind of official rules kind of.
Well, mostly if I asked TSR what the answer would be, they'd say, figure it out. You're writing this time.
Okay, wow. So that's amazing. Yeah.
I did go back sometimes and say John Pickens was a good resource for that. He would rules endlessly if he wanted to. The other designers occasionally. But mostly I was making it up as I went along, and that everybody was fine with that.
Yeah, because when it was in the magazine, then it became, or on the piece of paper from TSR, then it became the official rules interpretation, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Sage Advice was officially unofficial until third edition came out.
Oh, okay. Then it became the official one.
I think there used to be a little disclaimer.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, wow. Because I remember during the 3.5 they had on the website and in Dragons magazine, it was the official interpretation.
Right. Yeah, they decided to make it official.
Yeah.
When 3.5 came out. Yeah. Yeah. So I would preface a lot of answers with, okay, use this until something better comes along.
Oh yes, you hedged your bets a little bit.
So. Nothing better ever came along. So.
It was gospel to me.
Yeah.
It was usually one of the first things I would read in the magazine.
Yeah.
I used to get letters like that said, okay, well, yes, why don't you give me something that I can use until something better comes along? So I got that back from the fans.
Yeah.
We had one letter we sent, and it ended up in Dragon. I think it was when you were doing it, but the question was, a gnome got both his legs cut off. How much did he weigh?
I did one like that.
How much does a legless gnome weigh? That's us. So, Skip, you may have answered it.
Oh, it was a legless dwarf. But
okay.
It was the one I answered was a legless dwarf.
So,
and to give you an insight into the process, I actually approached my then brother-in-law about that one because he was a pathologist.
So maybe it was the same because it was 20 to 25% of body weight.
Yeah. So what he suggested is, well, use the rule of nines, which is what physicians use for things like burns. So you got 1/9 in the head and 2/9 in the chest and a 9th.
Okay. And each limb.
Dwarves are squat, so there's probably a little bit less weight in the legs than a human would have.
Very cool. All right. Some
Canadian Gamer wants to know if you still chat with Monty Cook.
Not for a long time. I haven't seen Monty since Gen Con 50, so.
Okay.
And I don't do Twitter, which is where he's active, I think, these days. So I haven't actually chatted with Monty in quite some time.
We will have Bruce Cordell and Sean Reynolds on Sunday night, so we'll have some Monty Cook people. Yeah.
I still hear from Bruce from time to time.
You and Bruce and Sean, I mean, my gosh, the publications that came out in that second and third edition era is crazy.
Yeah.
Some unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable. Lots of publications. This one here, what was your inspiration for City Sites?
So City Sites was another one where a bunch of people sat in a room brainstorming products for a year down the line or 2 years down the line, and somebody said we should do these little places where shops or places where you could have adventures in cities, right? So that was, and then I got the project in the luck of the draw. So it's like, okay, you've got this many pages. So the biggest problem with that is it was billed as part of the floor plan series, and it was I was told it was a book of maps. I went, that's not a problem. I can draw piles of maps. And then I looked at the specs for the product, and the product is only going to be about 1/4 maps.
Yeah, there's some page maps like right here, but it's not a ton, right?
Yeah, most of them are smaller than that.
Yeah, a lot of them are like Tavern and Inn, a 1/4 page. I mean,
a lot of 1/4 page.
Yeah,
a lot of 1/4 page, and half-page maps, and then a lot of 1/4 page yellows.
Huh. So
then I sat down and I wrote lists of potential sites on a legal pad, and I showed those around the office at TSR and had people tell me what they found was going to be the most interesting, and then I started outlining. And then just to make it a little bit more fun, I actually assumed that they were kind of all in the same city, so there could be some interplay between some of the proprietors. So,
well, there's some good depth here. You have public locations and you have businesses, 2 separate sections, and it is 90 some pages, so it's a lot of content. Another one that,
right? Is that what it is?
Excuse me.
90, if it's 92 or 96, right?
Yes, yeah. Not if you count the back guide, yeah, it's 96.
It's always the units at 32 pages at the time because of the way they were printed. So 32, 64, or 96 pages.
Was it so? You were thinking that you were going to get a lot more maps out of this instead? Full pagers.
That's how it was advertised to the public.
Okay.
In fact, there was a reviewer who was all mad because it wasn't maps.
Well, I guess back then you couldn't scan something in and blow it up, right? Now
Yeah, and also have the maps in the book. I guess some people probably thought that they would get the full battle map size they could put on the table and put miniatures on it or something. I don't know.
That's possible.
Yeah. I have it here somewhere.
That book actually has sort of a standard map in Illo load for a product of its size. Maybe it might have like a double allotment of maps. That was all formulaic at the time. You get so many yellows, so many pages of yellows, so many pages of maps. I think maybe they said we could have more maps because it's not an adventure per se, but it's still mostly text.
It is, but it's got a lot of NPCs detailed and a lot of locations detailed. So there's some really good data. And I noticed you didn't do castle sites; you just did city sites. So
I did the first of the series. Yeah.
Right. Okay. But I was thinking that I think this is one of the first 2nd edition publications you did. I'm just guessing here, just by time frame in my mind when I bought them at the hobby store back then, because I think this came out later, and that's the Sea Devils. This is pretty good. This is pretty cool.
Sea Devils was like the last thing we did before the WotC takeover.
Really? Okay.
Okay.
I think did not get published until everybody was in Renton. But it was done right before then.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm looking here.
I was scouring my shelf for that book. I love Sea Devils, and I can't find it.
It says 97 TSR, so there you go.
Yeah, I don't think I have it.
It's also got.
I was a bad boy. I actually borrowed the boards for that book and took it on a job interview. It was not clear exactly what was going to happen to us. But.
Yeah.
This has color printed within it, right? And that's not a regular thing. It's nice.
Yeah, the Sea Devils is actually an art book, really arty. Yeah, it's part of the monster mythology or whatever it was. So it was somebody's book on beholders.
Yes. And I believe
Tyrant, or yeah.
I believe the series, the triple series of Adventures is Bruce Cordell. He did all three of them, I believe. Yeah, and yeah. So
and those came out when we were in Renton, because I was the editor for those.
Okay.
Was that a huge kind of change of things to move to Seattle and from Lake Geneva and was it different?
Yeah, to move 1,500 miles to live in a city you'd never even visited before. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, and also I think, was it a complete change in culture at the Woodsy? Did they have like a different way of doing things and stuff like that, or was it just old TSR stuff a bit but under a new leadership, or how did that work? Or how many did you lose? Was most of the staff, did they follow, or was it like a lot of people fired and then they hired new crew, or how did that work?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there.
Oh yeah, just a few anecdotes would be kind of cool. Yeah, nothing.
The WotC culture hugely different from the TSR culture.
Yeah.
And of course, the biggest thing is WotC at the time was a company on the upswing, and TSR had been a company at decline.
Yeah.
So that's a huge difference right there. And then you have the Pacific Northwest versus the Central Midwest.
Yeah.
Great Lakes Midwest.
Huge
cultural shift there. And you have sleepy little lakes. Well, not quite. Make Sleepy, it's not sleepy, but a town of 5,000 versus the major metropolitan area. So lots of things going on.
Yeah.
So WotC wound up making job offers to pretty much everybody who was still employed at the time of the purchase. But TSR jettisoned, I don't know, probably a third of the staff. And then even some of the non-gaming people got offered jobs. So there were some of the typesetters made the trip, and all the artists did, except for Jeff Easley, who was able to arrange to work remotely.
Yeah, that was a big deal back then, to work remotely, because these are the early days of the internet and stuff.
So
yeah, I have actually I have no idea how they managed it, how they managed Jeff. Tony Sudlow or Fred Field. One of the other artists also stayed behind. I don't remember who it was now. It was Fred Fields or Tony Sudlow. Two of the artists, I think, kept working for the company but stayed behind.
Yeah.
Back then, it was a little more difficult to do that, right, than it is today, with everything. So Gary Julian's on, and he asked a question of, and we went over this a little bit, but talk about Skip's memories of playing with Ernie and Rob Kuntz. Any fun anecdotal stories or something that happened that was like, wow, that was an excellent adventure? Or I know that's a tough one. See, Gary, you got it.
Well, Ernie and Rob and I did not play together very often.
Okay.
Because Rob was the co-DM, so Rob was more often the DM for us than a co-player.
Okay.
So Ernie and Rob played when Gary was running, and sometimes Rob and I played when Gary was running. But very, very few times when the three of us played together.
Okay.
What was Rob Sir Robilar, the chaotic evil fighter? He was sort of an irresistible force, and about twice my character's level. So.
Yeah, and it was in publications, and crazy stuff happened to him in Expeditions of Ruins of Greyhawk, going all the way to the end of the the last publication. They still were using Roller that day, and Rary the Trader, and all over the place. He is all over. Do you have a favorite module that Gary DM'd for you?
Well, yeah, I mean, years ago I was asked, or I should say a few years ago, I was asked to pick out a favorite, and I picked out Studying of the Hill Giant Chief.
Yeah.
And that was almost done on a pickup basis. There was me and a bunch of guys from out of town, and I think Ernie was there. I don't remember what character Ernie was playing. So Ernie and me and like four of Gary's friends. Tom Wham was one of them. Tom Wham was playing his character, his cleric Nudnik. And running around the setting, and we walked in the front door and found the giants asleep, and that was actually a moment of very high stress, but of course completely scripted.
So they weren't in the feasting hall as usual; they were asleep.
I don't know if you're familiar with the adventure at all, but
yeah.
That's how the adventure is set up. The Sneery and his guests are in the feasting hall, and there's guards. There's guards in the antechamber, and the guards are asleep at their posts.
Okay.
And I think it's essentially set up as an intelligence test for the party. We managed to get in there without waking the giants up, and then what the hell do we do now? And we went up off in the giants. And
all hell breaks loose then. It's like one of the biggest mass combats.
We managed to get rid of the sleeping giants quietly. I don't remember exactly how. I think we just kind of went all, Sam Raimi on them, I think.
Sam Raimi.
Or Quentin Tarantino sort of a deal. We managed to dispatch the giants without getting caught. And then we ran around the upper works until we found our way down to the dungeons, and then we raised particular hell in the dungeons.
Lots of trolls and orcs, if I recall.
We were right.
Yeah.
And then we went back upstairs and kicked open the door to the feast hall and threw all our spells in, essentially.
Yeah, that's a nasty fight early. It can be really tough to manage too, because there's so many giants in that fight. So Puppet Dad asked, were you one of the characters who sacked Robbler's castle?
No.
There you go. That's a Len no answer, which I like. Direct and to the point.
Yeah.
So you gotta give Skip. You gotta give yourself credit. You and Len did the exact same thing for payment. Len did it by word. You did it by letter. You responded to, right? So you guys both had some good tactical negotiating skills there, as far as getting that. I can't even imagine how many. You probably answered thousands of letters in that time frame. If it was stacks and stacks and
there were. I mean, I remember most of this was done before the internet, so most of the letters were on paper. Yeah, there were just reams of them.
It's cool to know that it got to and it was taken care of. Absolutely. Here's a Len question. I got two Len questions for you, and one of them is about Deep Dwarven Delve, L3, for the 25th anniversary box set edition.
Okay.
It was put into the box set, and Leonard said that a lot of the original manuscript was changed for publication. I'm not sure if you're aware of any of that, what happened there, because Len he's always on our shows. He was on like 40 shows. He always had a bone of contention with that change. Were you involved or knew anything about that? That his ending got rewritten on L3.
Only peripherally. I remember sitting down with Lawrence Schick and Tom Mulvey.
Okay.
A little name dropping there. Mm-hmm. I don't remember who else was there. But Lawrence ran the adventure for some of the guys. And we tried to figure out, we ran around the dungeon and kicked in doors. And Lawrence did a lot of tut-tutting and making. But exactly what the process was after that, and I never saw the manuscript. So
okay.
but a lot of designers don't take editing well. So I've worked as an editor long enough to know that that's just part of the job. So
yeah, and
make the best decision you can. And when I'm working as an editor, I always consider myself to be an advocate for the reader.
Okay.
In fact, and I've told writers this from time to time. It's like there's a 4-step totem pole, right? And the top of the totem pole is the reader, because that's what the product has to be. It has to appeal to the reader. It has to be useful to the reader. Without the reader, there's no point. The reader is number one, period. And after the reader comes the publisher, because the publisher makes everything possible. And then comes the author designer, and the editor comes last. So, you're pretty close to the basement. So things are not going to go your way very often.
Yeah.
Len just didn't like his stuff touched. You know that. That's just the way Len was.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
So you've worked with a lot of people who, editing or otherwise, who are a few of your favorite people to work with?
What, as an editor or just in general?
Or in general.
Bruce Cordell and I managed to do some good stuff together.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I did his Blood Tide or whatever stuff for the Sea Devils, and then I also did the editor for Return to the Tomb of Horrors.
Yes, absolutely. That box set is ready to go for Sunday too. Another one I am assuming you didn't make money on because of the size of that too, unfortunately. But it's another great one. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask if you had a hand in Gates of Firestorm Peak.
No, I don't remember who the editor was for that. But that was supposed to be in support of Combat and Tactics, so I had a connection.
Okay.
Anyone other than Bruce, though? Just like one other?
Rich Baker and I, we worked together on Combat and Tactics and Skills and Powers, and we started out on the third edition team, so was a good partnership for quite some time.
It is,
and then Jonathan and Monty, the final 3.0. That's got to be the dream team right there.
I can imagine that the brain power there. I mean, just some of the unbelievable publications. Yeah. For me, I'm a 1E, 2E guy, but 2E I converted back, to 1E. But there's so much great stuff that came out during that era. I want to talk to you about this high-level campaign book. That's yours, the Dungeon Master's Option. I think you just mentioned those.
Yeah.
Were you the one who created some of the spells in here? Because Tenser's Telling Blow is in this book, I believe. And that spell, Tenser has line of sight, is vision, and it does 20 die 8 plus 20 just from sight view. And I was just curious if you were the genius behind some of the spells in this high-level campaigning.
Was that the
except for some general brainstorming? That book's pretty much all mine.
That's cool.
There's a chapter in there, 7 axioms for high-level play.
Yeah,
and that's developed from sort of a white paper that Steve Winter did. Steve Winter was the creative director for the D&D line at the time, and he had a pretty substantial outline. So there's a whole chapter that's based off of Steve's work, and the rest of it is I pretty much sat in the cubicle staring at the wall or staring at the computer monitor and
nice.
tried to figure that out.
how long would it take to write something like this from start to finish?
High-level campaigns took longer than it should have done. I think. So the rule was every 32 pages was 1 month.
Okay.
All right, and high-level campaigns, I wound up needing an extra month or two.
Okay. Took some,
much to everyone's chagrin. But.
Well, you know, at this level, one little faux pas can imbalance something. You know, it's tough. High-level adventuring DMing is tough. You know, it's tough to do no matter what system you play in. So, you know, you have to think about balance. You have to think about, man, what's
well, the fact of the matter is AD&D really wasn't set up for it.
Right. But third was
AD&D does not scale up. I mean, when you start high and go low. Once you hit the 0, it's very difficult to scale it up. Oh yeah, my experiences with high-level campaigns definitely had an impact on 3.0.
Okay.
Yeah, because in many ways, my experience is that the 3rd edition was kind of the first one, the coherent one that people actually sat down and looked through the whole game and tried to change it. Meaning, first, the 2nd edition was not a complete remake of the game. So and for me, 3rd edition was the edition when D&D came of age, so to speak. We got a lot of cool new features and system that really worked, and you can play almost everything. So.
Definitely, we can see the progression between systems.
Yeah.
So Gary Julian asked, did you prefer writing to editing? And did you juggle multiple jobs? I'm assuming.
So my title at TSR was designer editor. So they gave me whatever projects needed to be done.
Okay.
So, and I would guess it's probably about 1/3 editing. And about 2/3 designing. But I got to WotC and they made me a senior designer, and then I didn't do any more editing.
Okay.
The last thing I edited was a Planescape, The Endless Stair by Monty.
Okay. That's a top 30 adventure of all time, isn't it? If I recall, that's the Planescape one in the top 30, I think.
Really?
I think it is. Am I wrong there, Big Mac? Oh, by the way, so David Big Mac from the Piazza said, and I got to go back. He said, compliment on 2 monsters to begin, the Wiggle and Ryback from Spelljammer.
What was he? Oh, the Wiggle and the Ryback. Yeah, from Spelljammer.
Yeah. Both monsters of your creation.
Yeah, so the Wiggle was actually from my campaign.
Okay.
Yeah. So ultimately expired by a miniature I had. I think it was Archive Miniatures out of California. Did a bridge troll creature they call a bridge troll, and it was this froggy body and an old man's head with a long beard. The Ryback, I think I just pretty much made out of whole cloth. But there's a little bit of Gremlins in there at the Phoebe Cates movie, Gremlins. A little bit of that.
All right, we had a question about, of course, it's Josh Pop who's always pushing the buttons here, and you know Josh is one of the best tech guys in the tech team for Gary Con, and he did Virtual Grail Con and all of them. So he's going to ask this: did we skip about the Dragon annual map of Beyond the Phalanx and how that came about? Where it's just beyond.
Okay, well, yeah. So here's the story. I didn't even know the whole story of this. Right. So the story in chronological order goes like this. Roger Moore was unfortunate enough to be like the person who was caught in the room when TSR was dealing with the various fallout from Gary's departure. So Roger had to do a lot of the legwork. For example, when Dangerous Journeys was blowing up, and he did a lot of the legwork for PSR when the Rolaids things blew up. And at one time, he was essentially entrusted with all the bits and pieces that were left behind in Gary's office. And one of those things was this 11 by 17 map of the world of Greyhawk. And it had one corner of it was the Floness.
Yeah.
That we all know about, with the the near div in the middle. And the rest of it was the supercontinent that went for miles and miles to the west. And that sat around for a while, and Roger was the Greyhawk guy, and it sat around for a while, and there was always in the back of everyone's minds that this was going to become the Greyhawk map. But nothing happened until one afternoon I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. The Friday afternoon, and we were on summer hours at the time, and everybody was supposed to be gone, and it was 12:45 or 1 o'clock, and I was still rattling around the building for one reason or another, and I ran into Dave Gross, who was the editor of Dragon at the time, and he said, I got to have 2 pages for Dragon Annual. I got to have it by Monday. Can you do something with this? And lo and behold, it was the Greyhawk map.
Wow.
And I went, okay, well, yeah, I think I probably can do, 2 pages. And then I told him what was going on. We had, here's this map. The provenance is completely unknown.
Right.
So, and I know Gary did not sign it. He had this handshake deal with Frank Mentor about where Greyhawk was going to go, and he never did anything with that. And if we do this, then that deal is blown out of the water completely, because this Aquaria, his setting could not possibly be where it was in relation to the free city of Greyhawk if we published this map. And again, I mean, this does not really look like Gary's writing. I don't know where it came from. So,
Wow.
So then I wrote this little gazetteer, dealing with, what the names evoked, essentially. That's how that happened. Now, I learned much more recently that the person who drew the map was probably Francois.
I was going to guess.
Francois Fordeval, who apparently had it done for some of the magazine work that he had done on his own in France. And he had access to enough of Gary's, little stories he was telling the kids to get a lot of the names right.
Wow. So
that's where I think it probably came from. I think Francois probably did the map, which is probably why Gary left it behind when he left TSO.
So you just had to make up something from nothing.
From the names on the map.
On the weekend, and had to have it done right then and there.
Started on Friday afternoon.
Wow. What an awesome story.
Yep.
What a great question. So Josh says you probably don't. He's Zarathon. Do you know Zarathon? And all, that's who Josh is. If you know him as by that name.
Yep.
Yep. So, wow, what a great question, Josh. Beautiful. All right. I got to ask this. When did you decide we need a prequel to the Slavers? And I'm going to write this, and it's going to be, everyone's going to like it because it's cool. And I think is this 3rd edition or 4th edition when Danger Darkshelf Quarry came out?
That's fairly recent.
That might have been 4th edition. So again, It was decided when Wacky sent me an email and said, we're going to redo the Slavers and we want a prequel adventure and we want you to write it.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that was Chris Perkins going, we want to do this thing and we want you to write it. And so it has to be, it has to be lower level than the first adventure, and it has to be this long, and it has to lead to the first adventure, and
it's on the other side of the Woolly Bay, which is really interesting too. It's over in where Niron. Yeah, not Niron. Niron. It's in Niron. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's in Niron, Bright Desert, kind of. Yeah, on the.
Yeah. So,
there.
But
yeah, it's on the south coast.
Yeah.
Off the Sea of Gernat.
Yep.
Yeah, it's sort of. It's in the Niron area, and I don't remember why I picked that, except that there's a reference to the slavers raging up and down the coasts.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, if they're ranging up and down the coast, then
both coasts, yeah.
They should have
there must be other places other than the town, right? So.
By the way, they're charging for this too. This is in DM's Guild 2 now. I know.
Dan actually put together a mock-up of that for me. I actually have an actual paper mock-up of that.
Yeah. Nice.
So.
It is considered the prequel now. I mean, I know Jimmy Duffy on Praetor's Rejects is running this right now as he started a Greyhawk stream on his channel, and they're running A0 now, so that's a cool thing. It is all right. So they just decided they were going to do a re-release of the Slavers, and you got tasked with doing it, and so okay. Perfect.
I think they probably sat around a table and said, "Who do we know who can do first edition stuff?"
Makes sense.
I think that's probably how it happened.
Okay.
I don't know if they asked anybody else. I don't know.
Okay.
Haven't heard from Chris. That's another name from my past I haven't heard from recently. I haven't heard from Chris in quite some time.
Well, he's not at in the D&D department anymore, correct? Him and Mike Merles are both out, right? Correct?
That's probably right. I don't know.
Yeah, lots of changes going on there still to this day. Another really cool adventure you wrote is Deep Horizon. Was this another?
That's part of the adventure path. That was the first adventure path. Yep.
Yep. I noticed that all the ones that are of similar look go, and let me guess, Sunless Citadel was part of this too, because that was the first one that was by Bruce Cordell. Yeah. Okay. And so, this one is high level. This is 13th level.
Yeah,
so
it's heavy duty stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this is
Colin had one, but I don't remember it was the one before that, this one, or the one after that one. I don't remember.
This is actually an adventure path, but not really stated that it is. Is that what you're saying? Because a lot of people don't know that. I did not know that till you said that. And that's how I put the two and two together with because you got Speaker and Dreams, you got a couple other ones that are all set as one after another to be done. In I was not aware of that. Cool. It says here back to the original. Okay. David Noonan edited. This is what year is this?
2001 maybe?
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find a date on it. All right. This is third. And you wrote a lot of thank you for the Canadian, and thank you for Nambu for the sub follows. Along with Player's Handbook, you read these are both with Bruce Cordell as well. So you did a lot of joint work. This one is, and David Noonan's on this one too. You have Enemies and Allies, and then you have Tome and Blood, which are
Splat books, yeah. We call splat books.
Yeah. Done a little differently than the complete books of in second edition, but there's a lot of specialty. There's a lot of feats. There's a lot of specialty prestige classes in these, and there's a and some of these have Greyhawk specific. So was Greyhawk like the behind the scenes? It was more Forgotten Realms at that time. And you just added, put Greyhawk in these books? Is that how it went in third edition?
There was sort of a half of a plan to make Greyhawk the default setting.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was listed as that in the first 3.0 Player's Handbook. It was written in as the, if I remember correctly. But then, yeah, I don't know. I might be wrong. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if we ever actually announced that to the public or admitted it.
Because it was the coins and stuff for Greyhawk coins, and there was a bunch of references like that in.
Yeah, I was. So Nambu saying
it's a long time. It's 20 years ago. So yeah.
Yeah. Forge of Fury he liked, which is part of that part of this series. I did not put that 2 and 2 together. That's pretty neat.
Sunless Citadel and Forge of Fury are redone in 5th edition in the Tales of the Yawning Portal.
Did not know that because I don't do 5th. So, okay. So they were redone then because they're very popular. I think Forge of Fury was the most popular 3rd edition publication module there was, according to a site I saw. But that could be wrong. All right, a couple other questions. Can you tell us anything about the unpublished Shadowlands? Any chance you could file off the serial numbers and publish it?
Well, it never got finished, so no, it would be pretty hard.
Okay.
I don't have the manuscript anymore. It was many computers ago.
Okay.
I mean, I might have a paper copy somewhere. So if there's a paper copy anywhere, Gail Gygax would have it. It's not, the adventure itself is not something that's so difficult that it couldn't just be written at some point.
Okay.
And there's a little more framework in the system now. And one of the things we did is we worked a Plane of Shadow into Planescape as the part of the rule of threes. I said to Jeff Grubb, I said, we've got the so-called transitive planes. You've got the astral plane and you've got the ethereal plane. And Planescape has a rule of threes. So what's the third transitive plane? Why don't you make it the Plane of Shadow?
Okay.
So shadows reach everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So that's now part of the lore and would not have to be introduced the way it was, the way it had to be for the original module. There was also a Gord the Rogue story set in Shadowland, but I don't know if Gary ever published that.
Wow.
Ooh,
Anna knows very well about that. Anna, do you know anything? One that's in the Shadowlands?
Yeah, it's one of the latest books in the Gord series. I think he was all over the multiverse and
okay.
playing around in those books when Gary wrote the Dance of Demons and Come Endless Death. I think the later ones. They're not in Greyhawk much. They're just out there in the multiverse, all sorts of dimensions.
Shadow chasing them around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So so there's the lore. There's a lot of water that originally had to be hauled. A lot of wood that had to be chopped and water that had to be hauled.
Yeah.
In the original project, that wouldn't really have to be done anymore. As far as putting up the setting.
Yeah.
So I mean, it could be done kind of any time if anybody was actually interested in it, but it wouldn't bear much resemblance to what Gary and I were working on, except for what I remember.
Yeah.
Any of the and I have the Monsters Compendium up. Can you lay claim to any Greyhawk monsters?
I probably did have one in there. I don't remember what it would be though.
Okay.
The Gremlins are in there. Yep. with the Greyhawk logo on them.
Mist Wolves, Tiergs, they're all in there too. I don't know if they're
Yeah.
Sergeant makings or whatever, but I'm just curious on that. You know, Jim Ward, during that era, were you involved in the Jim Ward putting together, or was that the Greyhawk Adventures hardback book, which was so rushed, or was that before your time on that, where he had to get that book out within 3 months?
Yeah, well, I did pieces. I did actually quite a bit of stuff for that book.
Oh, okay. Great.
I think the only pieces that I did that actually made it a print was the Temple of St. Cuthbert.
Okay.
And some spells. But I did 3 temples, I think. St. Cuthbert and the Roll, and one of the other evil deities. I don't remember which one it was now.
It's maybe been Encabulous.
And then spells.
So you actually did some of the Circle of 8 spells that are in that book.
Yes.
Very cool.
Don't ask me which ones. I don't remember.
Okay.
I did.
I mean, because some of them are.
That was the turnover. Was 3 temples and 15 pages of spells or whatever. That was the contract.
Very cool.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but
of course,
3 temples and some spells. That was the contract I was given.
It is one of my favorite books of all time. I mean, the spells in there are fantastic. We use them a lot in our game, and you know, you got some great Nystal spells and Tensor, and I mean, there's just some really cool things in that book. And what we like also is the unique Greyhawk magic items are in that book. Just was wonderful. I'm glad to hear that you took part of that, because that was putting together a hardback book in 3 months. That's pretty quick. And you said, you know, 32 pages. Just writing 32 pages for a month. You know,
that was the standard for in-house designers. I don't.
Right. Okay. Mike, Anna, you got something else you'd like to ask, Skip? Are we still?
Let's see. I
got a couple others, but.
Oh yeah.
You want me to keep on talking? I don't want to dominate all the questions.
No, but this is so much fun. I'm just like, okay. This is so cool.
Yeah. All right, so let's go back to.
Yep.
We go back to 3rd edition. We didn't talk about the Draconomicon, Anna, and that's one of your favorite books. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, that is. First of all, I love the oh, excuse me. Get into anatomical stuff and layers and all the who did the internal illustrations, all these dragon heads and anatomical.
I should know that.
That was me and Todd Lockwood.
Oh, it's Lockwood. Yeah, it's Lockwood. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So in the genesis of that was, I was working on the monster manual and had negotiated successfully with Monty and Jonathan about how we wanted to handle dragons. So we had the huge section on dragons and took all of that over to Todd. And it turned out that Todd had all these ideas about what he wanted to do with dragons and had been studying them for some time and was looking at the original Sutherland illustrations and trying to update them. And among other things, he had all these little 1-page illos with annotated illos with all kinds of interesting things like how the dragons smelled and you know, and so I said, wow, this is all great, and if I had space for it in the monster manual, I would put it in there, but I don't have space to do that. You know, we got an illo or 2 for each dragon is what we've got. But this is all pretty cool.
And this is a hefty, it's 288 pages, so it's a hefty
hardcover. A little bit heavier art load than was standard as well.
Oh yeah, this one is awesome. Even the inside on the covers here have Lockwood's beautiful dragons on it. So it's I think it's one of the most well illustrated books from.
So the original, it was originally proposed as a coffee table book. About dragons.
Yeah. So not so much rules crunch, more like beautiful illustrations and backstories and stuff.
And then what happened was it was given to the game division, and then it became a game set. And then we had to fight to keep the graphical elements. But anyway, I was the lead designer along with James Wyatt and Andy Collins. And I said, okay, well, I will, after just coming off writing third edition, I've really had enough of rules for a while, so I'll write all the soft stuff. And you guys that's not entirely true, because I wrote some of the feats.
Yeah.
But I'll take the soft stuff in hands, and the first thing I did is went over to Todd and said, well, get out, blow the dust off your notes, buddy. Here's a chance to get it all in print again.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. And it came out in 2003. At least my printing is from 2003. So.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
It takes a while to get a product into the pipeline. So
yeah.
So this would have been started in.
So far in this discussion, I'm starting to realize, Anna, that all my 2E stuff that Skip has worked on, I took all that stuff to work.
Oh,
that's on my shelf in my office.
To fill out your awesome office.
Yeah, to fill out my office.
Yeah.
And
working on gaming credentials.
Especially the Draconaut.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was just going to say that this is the first real dragon-centric book ever. I don't think there was any for first edition or second edition.
There was a Forgotten Realms softback, also called the Dragon.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because I have that one sitting somewhere.
It's a different title, and I really did not care for that book at all. But there it was.
Yeah. And I think that was an update for 4th edition or something, wasn't it? I'm not sure, but I still think this is the best one that is. I still use it to the day to.
I think I had that other one too.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I still have it. So there you go.
I missed a question, and I want to just jump back to Big Mac asked. Did you, when you did that map in such a hurry, were you the one who attached it to the Chainmail Sundered Empire?
No, that was Chris Paramus who looked at the thing and said, okay, they're on the West End, there are all these little states, right? There are all these little borders, and there's a couple of names, but wouldn't that be a cool place to set Chainmail? Because you have all these little countries that could be at war. So that's how that happened.
Yeah. Okay. Those if you look at the scale, those countries are as big as the whole Flanese each of them.
Yeah,
close to.
Yes, they are. They're big.
Yeah.
But nevertheless.
Hey.
Maybe
for
that
a weekend
continent was not scaled properly to the rest of the.
Exactly, that's the thing. That's something I've been working on. But I like the idea. I'm one of the few that likes the idea. I both love and hate the idea. I love the idea of a huge continent because it gives so much room for awesome type of terrain and whatnot, so to speak. So as a cartographer, I love that idea. But on the other hand, to map an area that is that large around the globe is very, very challenging, to say the least. From to have projections and to get some sort of sense of it is very difficult. So it's both I have a love-hate relationship with the big continent, but I decided to try and stick with the love part, so to speak.
Well, and the other problem with the continent that big is what it would do to the weather.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So we kind of assume that the Flaness and really that continent has weather that's pretty much like Eurasia has weather.
Yeah.
But if it's an Earth-sized planet and it's a continent that big, that wouldn't be the case.
It will be a desert area. Inside will be dry and
the coasts would be, there would be sea breezes. The coast would be storm lash pretty much constantly. And
it depends on what the geography with islands and mountain chains and stuff. But the areas could be.
It's a fantasy world.
Exactly, fantasy world. You can kind of change it a bit, but
a continent that big would have some pretty serious
drastic
meteorological effects.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't have the thermal distribution on that planet. Would be pretty weird.
All right, here comes a 5e question for you from the audience. What do you think of the Dragonborn as a race to play?
I don't know. I've never played one. I think I love character options, right? I mean, one of the things we did for 3E, we just decided that we're going to write a game where people can play the characters they want, right? So, cool options. That's great.
Okay.
I'm personally not familiar with the ins and outs of the Dragonborn, although one of my wife's players, she runs for high school students, and there's a Dragonborn PC in that.
Yes. So a lot of these, speaking of your wife, a lot of these, I'm assuming, were jointly done by the both of you. And let me get to.
Pretty much the only one. I mean, Moonlight Madness was a 3-round tournament Penny and I did for the RPGA.
Yeah, like Cave of Spiders and those. I think she's credited on a lot of these.
Yeah, a lot of the short stuff I did.
Okay.
We prep each other a lot. I prep each other for a campaign. I prep her for her campaigns all the time. What can I do to screw them up this week? Well, let's think about that for a while.
Well, it is a like this one, and of course I got all these subs coming in. Illwind and Freezeford. It's 14th level, and it's designed Skip and Penny Williams on the credits. So, it seems to be a pretty, and that's a high level one, and your writings is all over my campaign. I'm not sure if you're aware, but my campaign is 40 years old, and ongoing Greyhawk. I'm on the 800 adventure number 894 this week. So Treasure of the Black Veil is number 502. Cave of the Spiders 528. Shrine of the Feathered Serpent 506. And this one that's down here, which I really love. I think this is 4E that I rebacked it, and that's The Haunting of Kinsep Mansion.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I believe that's a 4E publication. It was in a... and Anna, you'll know this. You put it... Remember, Kinsep Mansion is a winery, and that's the winery now in the Shieldlands that I have.
Well, it's a cherry orchard.
That's it. Cherry orchard. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's got great werewolves in it. This adventure. Yeah.
Got werewolves running around the grounds. Yeah, and a ghost.
Yep.
Yeah. It was a challenge.
It's interesting that you adapted that, because I took it and adapted it. First of all, I did it as a vicious venue. So there is a 3E version out there that's much shorter.
Okay.
And the 4E version, which is expanded. And I've run that at cons a couple of times. So
it's not easy. I mean, those greater werewolves are powered up. And I think the level on this is like 10th and 11th, maybe 12th, if I'm running at 1E, 2E in that realm.
Yeah, and the ghost is no slouch either.
Yeah. Yeah, but then we, the group of adventurers, kept it, and Anna edited it into her map in the Shieldlands. It's on the border with the Free Weavers in the northwest corner, so it's a mainstay place in the campaign now. So yeah, it's written right. Edited in, and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta ask Skip about this one. So, do you have a favorite adventure you wrote?
Favorite adventure I wrote? I don't know. Axel the Dwarvish Lords is kind of fun.
Okay.
That map has gotten a lot of has actually gotten a lot of mileage, because it became a map of the week.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, Kinsep Mansion, the original one, I wrote after seeing the Cherry Orchard by Chekhov. So.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It actually has literary roots.
Yeah. And I rarely converted back a 4E module adventure that I saw, and I'm assuming you were not a fan of 4E.
Oh, I'm a fan of 4E. It just turned out to be problematical, as from my point of view. I mean, it's clearly written to be WotC's answer to World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they didn't do the computer.
So was that a part of the integral part of the project to begin with?
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's why so many things in 4E push you around.
Yeah.
How many effects in 4E push you?
Yeah, lots of them. Yeah.
10 or 20 or 30 feet. I mean,
which would make sense in a video game.
Right. So but WotC didn't need an answer to Warcraft for one thing.
Separate audience.
Yeah.
That's true.
But yeah, 4E is great for. I mean, 4E is one of the things I like about 4E is that it's so modular that you can pretty much run it on the fly.
Okay.
And what I like, but sorry.
Yeah, the 4E Dungeon Masters guide is like a 2-page spread that's got all these wonderful little. It's the mathematical breakdown for everything. You could literally put together a monster on the fly, and make it up.
Yeah. What I liked about 4th edition was that for the first time, spellcasters had, like wizards and full spellcasters, were really useful from level 1 upwards, so to speak. They had cool things to do from the get-go, and I really liked that.
But you stick to 3, when you're playing, it's 3.5 for you to this day, and that's your favorite out of
3.5 that's my game. Yeah.
Okay. Did you see, and this is a Living Greyhawk question that I had to ask for Casey, who's a Draco, Casey Brown, who couldn't be on. I don't think he's on yet. Do you love most or all of the 3.0 to 3.5, or did you see, as a natural progression, or, what were your thoughts?
I'm not really tumbling to the question. I'm not sure getting at.
Did you love the improvements that 3.5 brought to 3.0, or did you see them as it wasn't necessary and it could have been done with just some addendums?
So one of the great things about 3.5 is that it stems almost completely from actual play experience.
Okay.
So it's what problems that we found, or holes or loopholes that we thought were exploitable, based on people running 3.0 campaigns. What was wrong with 3.5 was probably about a year or two early. That the community was not asking for it at the time.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, it was only, what was it, 2 years in, 3 years in?
2 years. It was.
Yeah.
It would have been a better product and better received if they'd waited another year at least.
Mm-hmm. But I really liked it. It was kind of, it tweaked, plugged some of the holes.
Yeah, there are things that I would have liked to have seen that didn't happen. I would like to have seen bards get a few more spells, for example. I think that's a weakness in the class that should have been addressed that wasn't. But there are lots of other things, like changes to individual spells, things that we're worried about, embracing the grid.
Yeah.
In the original game, we didn't want it to be dismissed as a miniatures game, so we're very coy about the grid system. And 3.5 changed that. I mean, we've got diagrams of all the spell areas in grids, and so it really does reflect the way people were actually playing the game.
So you stayed with WotC till 2002, 2003 in that era, and just to say I've had enough, or time to move on? At that point, what were you? Was it?
Well, WotC had a bad habit of just deciding that they weren't going to pay you anymore.
Got it.
Okay.
Jeff Grubb, I think, put it best. He said, yeah, they just decide, they give you raises until they decided they don't want to give you any more raises. And then they either promote you or fire you. And I think that's a pretty fair assessment.
So basically, you've been there so long that they're like, you're making your pay scale is too high, you're making too much, and it's just you're.
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, it was Hasbro driven, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
In that particular time, and the cut came, and I was between projects. I mean, I finished. I don't remember what I had finished. If it was Draconomicon, or I had finished a project. I did not have another project assigned to me at the time, so I was an easy cut.
Okay. Was Monty?
Like every...
Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just going to say, it seemed like every Christmas was always the...
Yeah, was the November Purge? Or
yeah,
was
the
it
Purge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we left in October. Penny and I stayed in Seattle until July, but I think we were let go in September or October in a purge.
Yeah.
Was Monty in the same purge before
Well, Monty actually left on his own. He
Okay.
went ahead of time. He
Okay.
took a look at the D20 license and decided that it was time for him to go off on his own, and that was.
Yeah, he was one of the early established third-party publisher, wasn't he?
Yeah, he really was. I mean, there was a time, Green Ronin and Malhavoc Press, and to a limited extent, Fast Forward, which is Jim Ward and Tim Brown. There were some people who got in there early that have stood the test of time, and then there's a lot of other people that got on the boat later, and they've since kind of been fallen off the deck, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah, Monty has really done well. He's been amazingly productive and innovative, and now has his own game system. And the Patolis City product was kind of one of the coolest box sets that was published in like, it was a huge book too. I think it was like a huge tome of City. I didn't buy it.
He'd wanted to do that for a very long time. He was thinking about doing that for Malhavoc, and
yeah,
I wound up doing it as Monty Cook Games instead, because it took me long. But, and a brilliant Kickstarter as well.
Yeah, that was very early in the Kickstarter, wasn't it? That was one of the first RPG Kickstarters, at least one of the first I heard of when it came out.
Yeah, again, an early adopter as well there.
Yeah. And also early in selling PDF products too.
He rode the wave where, he was been great at recognizing opportunities and exploiting them. So,
yeah.
As we wind this down here, Big Mac asked, you did some stuff for Fast Forward Entertainment. Was FFE seen as a lifeboat by ex-TSR designers?
Oh. Well, it was Jim Ward and Tim Brown who were in charge of the design group. So, I guess you could call it a life raft.
Okay. All right. So Josh is hounding me here. What do you see for the future of Gary Con and the direction? And since you were involved in your parts, scheduling is your main part, correct?
Actually, it's event approvals and the care and feeding of GMs. That's pretty much what I do.
Okay.
And that involves some hand holding for people. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
What do I do? Whatever. It's like, this will work. So being big brother to the GMs is kind of really what I do for Gary Con.
Yeah.
And try to make sure that everybody actually writes their event descriptions in English. So, which is harder than you might think.
I know.
Gamers love ellipses. I'm not entirely sure why that's the case. Ellipses are not generic punctuation. So yeah, so GaryCon, we've got to survive COVID. I mean, that's the challenge right now.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're unfortunately geographically we're
in a bad.
There aren't too many places where we could be worse.
Yeah.
I guess in middle New York City.
Yeah, they were early, but now you have it. Yeah.
Or the middle of any major city would be worse, but yeah, Wisconsin has really become a COVID hotspot. So
yeah.
Well,
before that happened, our biggest problem was managing the con's growth. So
yeah, I mean, you filled up the what you call it? Yeah, the venue pretty much.
The Grand Geneva, absolutely filled it, and we're planning to go into 2 adjacent hotels.
Yeah.
Before COVID called the end of that. So 4 years we doubled. Over the course of 4 years, we doubled in size.
Yeah.
I was all excited last year. I was going to be in the Legends of Gaming Hall or whatever. Was that Paul Stromberg?
Legends of Role Playing.
Yep. Yeah, Carlos Leising and I were going to be in there, and I was all excited about that. And then, it was got nixed down to. But then I did 6 events during virtual last year, and we'll probably get that many again for this year. Even though I got my badge, I think I'm going to be doing the virtual. My wife wants me to stay home, so and that's she's the final decision maker there. So, but
you do what you got to do. You got to take care of your own. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
but
we're getting to the point where we're going to have to make a decision here real soon. So.
That was this year, Josh. I know it was this year, but I'm talking about next year already. Jeez. Yeah.
It was this year. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming 95% of your signups are in-person games and not virtual, correct? At least?
What do you mean?
For GaryCons, all the events that have been entered now are all in-person.
The events right now the events that are in the system now are 95% is probably about right. I can think of exactly 2 GMs who have done only virtual games.
Right.
And I've kind of split myself. I've done some virtual games and some physical games.
Okay. Do you play via Zoom or Discord when you virtually DM?
Last time I did it for Discord. I may want to go to Zoom this coming year. I gotta get a camera. Right now I've just got the camera that's built into my laptop here, so I need to get an external camera. But I think I would prefer to do a Zoom meeting rather than a Discord chat.
Zoom, just a pro. I and I both have pro licenses of Zoom. It's not that bad, and it's easy to do. It's easy to embed into. If you ever wanted to stream it, I could teach you no problem. So it's easy to do. I know Jim is streaming on old school D&D, and it's not a big deal. Once you get into Carlos has his own channel. As well, and it's the way things are going. But I play in person. I don't like, we play tabletop, and I stream that. So I'd like to have the people in person. You have to. But sometimes you need to take a step back and have some people on and play the tabletop, but play it with the people zooming into it. And I understand everyone wants to be safe, and no one wants their loved ones to get ill. Understand it completely.
Well, I like to play around with minis. I paint minis.
Cool.
So I really would like to do something that would, and that I could use my minis, and that would be setting up a battle mat and an external camera. And
it's easy to skip it. It's easy to do. I could help you out with that, no problem.
No,
really easy to do.
Good luck on that. But right now, I don't even have the equipment. So I did virtual GaryCon last year. We just did Theater of Mind on a Discord chat, and that worked fine. I mean, it was fine, but there was that there was a physical element that was missing.
Yeah, you need 2 webcams, like 2, like one one up there, and then I got one that, I got I run 3, but you could 2's enough. One on you, one on the table, and you're good to go. So, but not a hard thing, but we could talk afterwards or at a future time. So, for your experiences over 30 years, 35 years?
Yeah, let's call it 30. Sure.
Okay. What's
closer to 40? That's by the way.
Yeah, which is same thing. I've been playing since I was like 11, 12 years old, and it's a long time. And what do you take? What's your take back from the entire experience? I mean, it's just like you're on a whirlwind ride, really. You've done a lot. Stuff to be really proud of. Absolutely. I mean, just legendary.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you can do something that changes the world, not know it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us were aware in 1975 that we were embarked on changing the world. That's what happened.
I'll say. Absolutely.
You do it. You follow your passion, and if you can manage to make that work, and
yeah.
Anything you would do differently?
Oh, there's all kinds of things I would do differently. I wouldn't have enough time to talk about that. Yeah.
Okay. Attempt to be a little more efficient and making money at TSR, maybe.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Mining the dollars and cents.
Right.
I'm not sure how much I could have pushed that, but by the time we got to doing the FR book, I should say, I was pretty well embedded in that. I remember sitting down and with the marketing people and planning that book, pretty much down to the last illustration. If we'd done that at TSR, things would have been a lot different.
Did the art take over instead of the dollar? Is that what happened, you think, or was it?
No. It started out with people just getting used to the fact that we could do something and it would sell itself.
Got it.
That's how TSR got in trouble initially. There was nobody really paying attention during the business, and the sales staff got used to taking orders.
Right.
They did not
feel
the need to go out and sell the product.
Yeah.
And then when Lorraine came in, that was sort of the classic corporate turnaround. It invested a little money and then loaded the company up with debt and cashed out and left. So I think that probably went about the way she planned to. Mitt Romney did it many, many times. Ms. Williams did it once, as far as I know. But WotC was minding the business end pretty carefully. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you've been around several ups and downs, these cycles. You were there for the first wave, and then you were there for the second wave around 2000 when third edition came out, and now you're still active in the business when the third big wave hit now with fifth edition, and everything is kind of. So how is this the experience? Meaning D&D gone from this word nerd hobby in the basement to now being kind of mainstream culture everywhere.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Twitch is if you go on Twitch now on a Saturday night, when I started streaming 2.5 years ago, there may have been 100 on a Saturday night. Now there's 500 on a Saturday night. Now I'm not saying the content is all good, but that seems to be the 5e direction. Do you think that's? I mean, I want to play in person. I want to play in person, tabletop, miniatures. My friends with me is, you see it as a necessary evil in this day and age?
I don't know. It's not. I wouldn't call it a necessary evil. I think it's the hobby making use of the available technology.
Okay.
I don't remember who wrote it, but years ago I read something about how the porn industry is the early adopter for entertainment technology.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
First to go into videotapes,
Yeah.
first to go into DVDs, first to go onto the internet.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool to see something a little more worthwhile start to do that. The social media and information technology is where humanity is headed. So it's absolutely natural that the gaming community is moving into that space.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to replace traditional gaming.
And a lot of these tools are things that I have used at the physical table for long before I used them, and now starting to try and get used to them in the online. And so it's kind of interesting.
Think of what it can do to you talk about 40-year campaigns. So think of the possibilities for hybrid games, right?
Yeah.
Somebody moves away, they don't have to drop out of the local campaign anymore.
Yep.
Zoom them in and there they are.
Yep.
I don't know how many people do that, but there must be hundreds of groups doing that, or at least dozens, if not hundreds of groups doing that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I know one or two. My one friend, the ever mysterious Tim, when we play on Thursday nights and we stream it, a lot of times will be zooming in, and everyone else will be playing at the table, and it works. It's a good hybrid. Yeah. When Anna plays on my games, or and I'll have people. It works.
Marco
it's a mix.
On for quite a while on the show weekly, and he promoted it. So,
absolutely. Yeah. There's a place for it. But if you could still play in that old school style, that's my fun locate. That's where I want to be. I want to be with those two combinations. So, that's where we'd like to be. All right, one last question for you. Do you have a dream job or a dream project, D&D wise, that you'd love to do to this day?
Money, no object.
Yeah.
No, I aim a lot lower these days. The fact of the matter is I'm supposed to be doing something for Tacticus every month. And so far I've managed to do the one piece for them. I've got another piece that's about 1/10 done right now. And I would really like to get that finished so that I can move on to the next piece.
So
the one challenge at a time guy right now, and keeping the household running, and Penny's recovering from a major surgery, and lots of things going on. So,
well, hopefully we'll meet in person at a GaryCon in the future. That'd be cool. Down the road. Hopefully. And we'll see what happens with the.
We'll get a handle on COVID one way or another.
Oh yeah, it might take a year or
we're going to learn to live with COVID sooner or later.
Yeah. And vaccines look fairly promising, but it will take a while. So yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to shout out or talk about that you're doing now? Do you want everyone to be aware of? Be more than happy to link it in, or
promote.
Well, there's the red candle from Tacticus. There's other stuff I'm doing. I'm working on another piece of another little one of those little one of those little expanded encounters that Tacticus is doing. I don't actually have a title for the next one, but when I finally get off my butt and get it written, James will probably get it out there in about a month or so. So it's coming soon. And there's another piece that's unfortunately it's too early to talk about. The people that I worked with to do I'm having aphasia because I'm tired here. I've been working since 2 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
The group in Europe that I was working with is they're cooking up something else, but that's too early to talk about. So
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, we really appreciate your time today. Thank you so very
definitely.
much, for coming on and sharing. I know we found out a lot of things we did not know.
Oh yes,
Especially the
we found-
Dragon
Oh, yeah.
Annual story that's hysterical.
that.
It
Oh
is-
yes, yeah.
Put that to bed.
That is really, really a classic there. That
Yeah.
hey, can you do this? Oh, sure.
well,
Nice.
yeah, that's serendipity upon serendipity is what it is. So
just but then again, a lot of people always wonder about how that came about, and now we kind of know, and that is very intriguing. And we always try to find out a little bit here and there, and we find, like, for example, Jim Ward told us that Gary coined Monty Hall about him at one adventure one night, and that's how Monty Hall DM started. So you find these things out in these shows, and it's wonderful.
Well, Jim did a series of Dragon articles kind of under that title.
Yeah.
Monty Hall and the Blank.
And I know Roger Moore did Curing the Monty Hall Malady too at one point as well with that. And we found out some things from Leonard, that that were pretty amazing too in the discussions with him, and just so I thank you. And Mike, what you got to shout out?
Oh,
anything going on?
The blog. Keep sending in your questionnaire answers to me, and I'll post them and make fun of them. But other than that, I think my Ice Barbarian campaign is going to go on hiatus for a bit. We're going to switch up DMs for a bit. So, yeah, that's about it for me.
All right. Gary's saying you forgot something.
One more.
Do you have a most treasured piece of memorabilia? Something signed, something.
I'm really terrible with my memorabilia, actually.
Okay.
So I will share you an example story.
Sure.
While I was in Seattle, I had a couple of my coworkers over for a holiday dinner, I think. It was Jennifer Clark Wilkes, the Goblin Queen. If you're familiar with the name at all, she was an editor of WotC for years, worked on Magic, and then came over to work with the role players. So Jennifer and her husband were over there, and they were looking through my books, and they found a little postcard size drawing of the Starships Nutar signed by Tom Wham. And they went, "What is this doing here?" And I said, that's a little tchotchke that Tom Wham gave me one afternoon. No, you've got to be taking care of this. This needs to be in acid-free paper, and it needs to be preserved. It's like, I think I've been using it as a bookmark. And they were just aghast. So
for you, it was just in a pile somewhere. It's lying around.
Yeah, they're everyday objects.
Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
All right. Fair enough. There you go. Great answer, and honest, and that's cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
Anna, what do you got going on?
You
always
have
have
some
something going on.
Good news from Len, so to speak, posthumously. Gary, his partner, found some more stuff from Len, some more notes and some more books and little pile stash of things. So I haven't, I just messaged Gary back, said that I can come out there and pick them up. So we'll see if I can do that next week.
Skip, that's Gary, Len's partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
So
familiar with. I don't know him, but I
So he lives out in Palm Desert. It's about 60 miles away from where I live. So it's a good, nice drive out there too. So I'm going to see if we can arrange that next weekend. I can go out and pick that up. So
that's great.
Yeah, and I've also done all the heraldry for the appendix is now done, and I've
Awesome.
exported it and stuff. So, but I haven't posted it on my website But if you know the link, you can go there. It's on my website. You can actually find the link in the Greyhawk content, and you can go in Atlas and you can see them all there. They are kind of in a beta because people haven't, my patrons haven't, a lot of them have probably not seen them yet. So there might be updates if they realize I spelled the typo in there or something like that. So that might be an update coming if people notice errors on them or something like that. But they look really cool. It's the best way of the kind of the most pretty graphics I've done so far. So I really like them. They turned out really, really well. So and now I'm going to dig into for probably about 2 weeks. I'm going to dig into my campaign maps for Shieldlands for 2 or 3 weeks. And then I'm going to switch. There'll be 2 new projects. There will be Lundor Isles. I'm going to start on that, and then I'm going to start on a secret project I'm not going to tell anyone about yet. So I'm going to work on that too. And then there will be a bunch of Kobold Press stuff done. So there will be halftime Greyhawk and halftime Kobold Press work for probably a month or so, up until, or maybe end of December, something like that. We'll see. And so there will be so Greyhawk will be it will be about halftime for the rest of the year. So yeah, so but there will be a good healthy start on Lindor Isles, and there will be some other cool projects.
Now everyone's guessing in chat. Is it your map extension of the Isle of Dread?
No, it's not.
There you go, Josh. No, and the other question was: is any of your heraldry based on things Skip did for Greyhawk? And it's probably.
I'm sure there is.
Sure it is.
Yeah, I'm sure there is some. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I try to take and there are things. For instance, there are maybe you were involved in the Death Knights articles and stuff for Living Greyhawk Journal back in the early 2000s and stuff. So there I found some cool, there's some heraldry depicted in the art on shield singing that some of the Death Knights have and stuff. So I kind of turned that into proper heraldry and used the images as a kind of inspiration for creating some of the art, some of the heraldry and stuff that I put on my map. So and I bet there is some other descriptions here and there and whatnot that I've used too. So yeah.
It is, Anna is the mainstay and the calming force of our community. Keeps me in line too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been crazy busy with both the election, and I have a good friend that passed away, so I have to be part of organizing his funeral and stuff too. So I've been busy with that too. So it's been a crazy month. The last month I've been kind of completely upside down when it comes to real world other stuff. But my part in the election is over. So my minuscule little part that managed to take forever in time and hours. So it's thankfully over. So the and some of the other stuff will be over by next week too. So then it will be back to normal for me. Yeah.
Awesome.
Apart from going out to Len, that will be fun to go out to Len's place again. So to see Gary and see what we can find in the treasure trove. He sounded kind of optimistic. He doesn't know much about the game, but he was like, "Oh, there's notes and stuff."
Oh
so
yeah.
We'll see. Yep.
Len's notes are gold.
Yep.
Skip, we're hoping to be able to compile L6 from because we know he was working on it, trying to get a compilation. So
that's cool.
Yep.
So
that was what I have, but I will have more in a couple of weeks. That will be way more. So yeah.
Fantastic. So for us tomorrow night, I don't know how. I've never run against the Cult of the Reptile God, and I moved it. I relocated it for my campaign in the Narwhal group, and it's placed it on the map. So we start that tomorrow night. And yes, my crazy ways, the entire village and I called it Lorraine just to change it, not in the Grand March, is on my table, right? So I got the entire village on the table to start. All right, we're using Miniature Building Authority and all our other sponsors that we have, and Build a Master Crafter stuff. So we're ready to crank this out starting tomorrow. My guess is 3 to 5 sessions, but probably 4. So we'll see you tomorrow night, 7:30. Stratagem and Wiz Dice. We're giving away sets of Titan Dice tomorrow night. Always fun. Just having a blast, and all my guys are pretty COVID free, so we're still getting together in South Jersey here. All right, Sunday, Gavin 117. I have Bruce Cordell and Sean Reynolds on. We're gonna do Bruce Cordell for the first half, Sean for the second half. So we'll talk to them both. Monty is down the road, so we'll get Monty Cook down the road too. So and that is this Sunday, 7:30 p.m. I'm looking forward to that discussion, and one of my favorite references of all time, Bastion of Faith. I want to talk to Bruce about that, and Slavers is one of my top 3 references of all time, and that's Sean. So I'll have some nice discussion points, right, Anna? On this one, this is going to be an interesting one. I tried to get Bruce on for a year and a half, so oh my gosh, it was tough.
I'm hoping my game session gets canceled now.
Oh my gosh! You want to cancel your session for the show?
Cancel it. Yeah.
Really
there's few kind of serious events serious enough to cancel a game.
Yeah.
But this is one of them.
Skip was too easy. I just asked, and Skip said sure. And so that was too easy. These guys were, especially Bruce, was really difficult. But really thank you for your kindness and generosity coming on tonight, Skip. That was definitely fantastic. Next week's Legends and Lore, we're going to do that dragons part of the monsters that we didn't do a couple weeks before. We'll do famed dragons of Greyhawk next week. On Legends and Lore in this time slot. Go through some named ones, some maybe some that aren't named but are in modules. Mike's always good for pulling these out, so we'll do that next week. And then the week after that, Casey's got oh my gosh,
from
Robert McFarland, Rodney oh my gosh, I'm
Stephen
sorry.
Redden.
That's it. And David Christ.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Rodney
and
he's awesome.
The gentleman who works for WotC now that is friends of both of them. Oh my,
cool.
Oh my gosh, he's been on before. See, now my brain has just seized up.
Yeah,
oh my god.
I forgot.
Oh jeez.
Awesome
1 sec.
You'll get it.
Greg Marks. My gosh.
Yep.
Greg Marks will be the third person on for that discussion in 2 weeks. After that, the 21st is a Saturday night special. And I'll have all the Living Greyhawk Geoff people, the Barrier Geeks adventuring group, and Anna is part of that group, and we'll be adventuring out of Greyhawk City. That'll be a bonus live stream instead of our normal Thursdays. We do that every 6 to 8 weeks, and I have one. I think I'm gonna make this a little lighthearted, Anna. So I think we're not gonna go as serious as we have recently, and hopefully they'll like a little bit more lighthearted adventure-wise. So just think of some of the dumb things I do and amplify that, and there you go.
You're gonna run something lighthearted for them?
Yeah, a little goofy,
Yep.
Something like Child's Play,
or gargoyles. We didn't mention either of them tonight, right? Skip.
Probably for the best.
Yes, well, but no, not something I wrote. So there you go. And I think that's it. And just remember, thank you all for coming on tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Got a lot going on. And I'm gonna get with Jimmy Duffy and Casey Rift, and talk about what we're gonna do virtually for Gary Con, as I know they're gonna be involved with that a little bit, and try to do the best terrain setup we've ever done. Outdoing Greyhawk Con, where I had Luke and Eric Mona playing in that game, and Steven Chenault playing in that game. But we're going to outdo them terrain-wise. I think we're going to do, and I know Paul Stromberg has done this before. We're going to do a joust competition.
Oh, that's
live stream, cool. Yes, with all high-end painted minis and
I used to run joust tournaments, but never had minis for it.
Tilt wall and everything. We're gonna have it all. So in there for just got to make sure that we get a good time slot. That's it. So virtually, but we'll work that out. So thank you all. And thanks, Big Mac, for that shout out for Facebook. We'll see you all. Let's raid into Predators Rejects. All right, Jimmy's crew. I think Mech 45's DMing for him right now. And let me get that set up as we go. Skip, it's been a true pleasure, and I'm so thankful you came on tonight and really discussed some cool things that happened over that 40-year period. Thank you.
Yeah.
Fun hanging with you. I'm gonna go and feed some cats. And
they sounded like they needed some feeding.
Starving all the time.
You have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you soon. We'll see everyone tomorrow night. Okay. Let me hit the right button here and not kill my stream.
Bye.
Boom. Have a good night. All right, setting up the raid here. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Skip's got a stoic side to him.
Yeah. Up since 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. What am I hitting here? Set this raid up. Where are they? I hate the way this thing sets up. There we are. Let's see how many we get.
Yeah, that time did go fast.
Predators Rejects.
Yeah.
Going into Predators Rejects, I already set it up. So we'll head into them and go in. Yes, Cannibal. Yep. And I moved it. The town of Lorraine. It was Orlane, of course, in the Grand March. I moved it to Narwhal. Yes. Second.
Lorraine with 1 or 2 R's.
2 R's. Lorraine. Because Lorraine is. I'm rating it now. Lorraine is Lorraine is actually a color.
I was thinking Lorraine Williams.
No, Lorraine's actually a color in our line of the product I sell to the company I work for.
Oh, okay.
Instead of Orlane, it sounds like it, So.
Yeah, I was thinking it was a kind of a.
See y'all soon.
Hateful,
dig.